Okay, so I got the Devastation of Tallarn book this weekend, and I thought I'd just do a quick video going over just rough contents, but more of a focus on the formations in it. It has something kind of neat. So I don't know the best way to describe it, but it's almost like special character formations, where essentially it's just a formation that is how it comes with no like customability, which is a kind of an interesting idea. And kind of good if you like sort of fluffy, like almost historic things, I guess, in a way. Which works because this is theoretically a historical game. Yeah, so the first part of a book, decent chunk of a book, I'd probably say almost at least a third of it is basically just story and background, which is kind of neat. And then the next part is they have a interesting campaign system where basically you're sort of fighting back and forth between three different areas, and there's like actual missions fighting stronghold and stuff, which is cool. And they also did there's three standard game modes, like they've done some stuff specifically for the campaign, and there's also some like free missions what you can play outside of it, which are basically you get points for destroying enemies, like your opponent's detachments, as well as having units in their zone, like deployment zone at the end of the game. So it's less objective based, or just destroy, which is kind of neat, gives people some options. And then I think we're on to the formations, yeah. So the first sort of special, like, pre-made formation, I guess that's another good way to put it, is an Iron Hands one called the Seeker Killer Clave Altor. Such a silly name. Yeah, so it is. So you can basically get the base part of the formation is 450 points, which gets you two Subaran squadrons, which are one of them's accelerated autocannons, you have plasma guns, and then some sabers. And then you can, for 170 points, you can add some more Subarans and sabers. I did some calculations, and okay, so for the full formation, what the hell was that? So for full formation, it is 720 points. And then if you would have bought everything individually, like essentially as part of different formations, so you wouldn't be able to do this specific formation, it's 765 points. So you save 45 points, which is kind of neat. And so it can only be used in a loyalist army. So these are the goodest boys. And it gives everything in the formations the macro extinction targeting protocol rules. Then the next one we have is the Iron Warriors Proxios macro assault wing, which is kind of cool. It is 400 points. You get 2 Terminator detachments, which have to have Spartans as transports. And for another 400 points, you get a second Terminator detachment with Spartans and some Kratoses. 3 Kratoses, rather. Oh, also the last one, I think it's unit 4 Subarans. Which the base one's for 2. Yeah, so this one is, so it's 800 points for full thing, and then 852 points for individually, so you're basically saving 52 points. It can only be used in a traitor army. And then all the Terminator models increase their close assault factor by 2 in any round basically turn they disembark. Any turn they disembark from a Spartan, they get better in close assault. It's kind of interesting and neat. And if you wanted to just run terminators like this, which you can now actually do outside of this, it's actually a pretty decent way to do it. And then the next one is the Alpha Legion Harrow Group Arcadis. Yeah, so the base formation is 2 units of Subarans, and then a unit of, basically double-sized unit of plasma gunners and land raiders, and then the extra is some more plasma gunners and some sabers. And that one is, yeah, so it's, you basically save 70 points, so it's 930 for the whole thing and 1000 points as you put everything individually. Kind of neat, and basically everything in the formation has outflank and scout special rules. Then we have two solar Exilia ones. One is the Tallarn Reborn Carmine Assault Tertia, which is basically a... So it's three different types of Lirust as a base formation, and then some Sentinels as your extras. So that is... So 615 points, and then individually it would be 645. So save them a tiny bit. And everything has foot deployment. Scout special rules. And then the last one is the Galibid of Sworn Pyros Siegebreaker Company, which is, so your basic formation is a unit of 3 storm swords, some basilisk and medusas, and the extra one is storm swords and more basilisks. So this one's interesting because the base formation's more expensive than the models individually, and the full thing is the same point. So this is very much like, I think all the others you'd potentially take them anyway just because you're saving points, and if you wanted to use those units it wouldn't be that bad at all. The trouble with this one, you only really want them if you actually want the special rule, which is basically any hit assigned to one of the Medusas or Basilisks in the unit that is within 2 inches of one of the Storm Swords can put that hit against the Storm Sword, which is very interesting, and there's definitely potentially a situation. It's very useful, I'd say. At the same time, you could always just get an artillery company and then just have your Basilisks hiding somewhere behind a fucking building, not being able to be seen, or indirect firing with no penalties and everything else on board. Like, it's fine though. And then we are down to the normal formations. So we have, the first one is the Legion Heavy Assault Spearhead. This one's kind of cool. So it's compulsory detachments are 2 Terminator companies which have to be mounted in Land Raiders of Spartans, or detachments have to be mounted in Land Raiders of Spartans, and 2 extra support choices that can only be either Terminators also mounted or Dreadnoughts. I really like it, but it's sort of my only issue with this, as I'm going to build it. It comes back down to why I don't really like the Space Marine infantry box, because yeah, 4 boxes to build the default base formation. The minimum requirement amount of Terminators, you need 4 boxes of infantry, and if you're using this, then suddenly, especially in a Tallarn campaign, it's basically anyone who isn't anything less than Terminator armored basically dies outside of vehicles, which is weird how the Alpha Legion have the plastic gunners, but I'm not going to complain. So if you want to do a Tallarn themed campaign and make an army and use this formation in it, you suddenly got like 90% of 4 boxes that you can't even use. If each box had 4 stands of Terminators like I would have ideally preferred, you just need 2. Not a big deal. Yeah, and then as support you get 2 battle tank slots, an air support slot, and 2 heavy armor. So yeah, definitely going to build one of these for my Iron Warriors now, because originally I was going to put like 4 Terminators, 4 Iron Warriors, and 4 in one of my other legions, but now I'm just going to do 8. Which put all 8 in Iron Warriors and build this. Then the next one is this Legion Subterranean Assault Formation, which is basically compulsory detachments are 2 core and HQ and support, and then you can get either 2 more support and 2 more core in it. So everything that doesn't have deep strike and it only has infantry has to come in a termite, which is like a transport for burrows underground, and it has some special rules relating to that as well, which is kind of neat if you like termites, and does give you some, yeah, it basically makes it easier to deep strike your termites. So it's a good way to like get stuff other than Terminators or drop pods. It's basically an alternative to drop pods, basically. If you like going underground or from the sky, whatever you think's cooler. Then the next, yeah, and that's all the Legion stuff or Space Marine stuff. I'm just going over the vehicles and stuff for Space Marines. So what we got in this thing was, we got the termites, which are basically underground drop pods, if you like those. And then we got two different types of Subarans, which were either the missile launch one, which we can see down here, or one with a Gatling gun sort of thing. Yeah, the missile launch one is basically just 5 points per tank more expensive than the original two versions, and it's basically it is a direct, it's significantly better than the plasma gun version, like plasma gun Subaran, and it's actually, I would say it's better than the autocannon one as well. It's definitely the best one, and I think the extra 5 points is probably worth taking over that. And then the one with the chain, like the Gatling gun, is theoretically it could be worse than the autocannon one, but it's also better in the same sense. Like, it's the base formation is 5 points more expensive. The only time where the original two Subarans are definitely better is when you take units of 4, like basically more than 2, because they still have like big discounts on bigger units, while none of these ones don't have that much of a discount. Like, they got like a few points here and there discount when you get big units. That's once you get like units of 4 plus when you actually really notice the difference. But you could probably get 6 old Subarans for a price of like 4 of these new ones. And then we also got options for tank commanders. They're basically at the back of the books after the Exilia section. They're basically it's interesting because they're a singular tank. You can take in either a HQ slot or in a battle tank / heavy tank slot, depending on what it is. There's either the option for Subarans, minus the missile launch version, and the Predator version, we can have all the options, and a Kratos version, we can have all the options. I kind of wish it was just like pay X amount of points to upgrade a single tank in an existing formation, detachment, as one, which would be that way you're not losing model counts. But what I think an interesting use for it, even though technically it's more expensive because it's 100 points for command Kratos compared to 150 points for 2 normal Kratoses, you could take a singular Kratos in your HQ choice in any of your the infantry detachments, because a lot of them have like the heavy tank option is an optional between 3 different choices. So if you wanted to bring like a single heavy tank in your infantry detachment, formation, you could just bring a HQ at Kratos. I almost forgot, there's one more Space Marine unit. It is the Saber, which is a light tank, which honestly, looking at the stats, it's almost better than a Predator. It's faster, has less armor and closer to assault factor, but weapon wise it has more firepower, just a lot shorter ranges. Next up we've got Solar Exilia. So the first formation is a tank hunter, or a Titan hunter company. The compulsory detachments are 3 Shadow Sword detachments. And then just 2 extra heavy armor detachments are it's optional. Yeah, so the special rules of this formation are if the Shadow Swords are issued first fire orders with volcano cannons, get accurate traits, so that's reroll misses. And honestly, I think if you are wanting to bring a bunch of Shadow Swords, this is probably the way to do it, and just have like 3 individual Shadow Swords as your detachments. That way, like, even if you go in second, they might be able to destroy 1 Shadow Sword, but won't be able to destroy all 3 of them. And ideally, you'd probably want some of the Malkador Valdor things to take out at least some of the Void Shields. And then the next formation is a Lirust company, basically. It's effectively the armored company formation from the core rulebook, but instead of the heavy tank compulsory choice, it's another Lirust one. So you can only take Lirust's in your compulsory choices, but you get 3. And then the only other difference is the choice between 3 option detachments has been replaced by a single just air support, and one of a battle tank has been replaced for light armor. Because basically, if you want to play a bunch of Lemon Rusters and you don't really want to bring any Baneblades, this is actually a pretty good option. And basically, the only special rules are they can only be Lemon Rusters. But they can be any of the type of Lemon Rust squadrons. Yeah, so that is all the formations for Exilia. Then going to the units, we have 4 new types of Lemon Rusters, which are 4 individual units, which is really weird because the original Strike Squadron, you can have mix and match Vanquishers and Battle Cannons in the same unit. And for these new ones, it's all just separate units, so you can't do any mixing and action. It's probably for balance reasons, but I don't see why for some of them. I guess maybe like the Demolish being separate. But I don't know why some of the other ones are, but yeah. Oddly enough, they all are exactly the same points cost as the original Russers. Yeah, so they are identical points-wise for exactly the same, including the extra units in your format and your detachment are all exactly the same points as the OG Lemon Russers, but yeah, you just get 1 type per tank. So we have the Demolisher ones, which are kind of neat, are definitely something I'd say is good. Then you have the Executioners, which have plasma guns, which are interesting. As it's basically, you're trading your 1 shot or 2 light AT shots. So it's kind of not too bad as like an anti-infantry option that can hurt tanks decently. Then you have the Annihilator, which is twin-linked las cannons, which basically it's las cannon with accurate. And then you have the autocannon one, which is 3 autocannon shots. And then we have 3 new super heavies. We have the Shadow Sword, which has a volcano cannon, which is great. Yeah, so the Storm Blade, which has a plasma blast gun, which is honestly, I think the Storm Blade is probably the best anti-tank Baneblade variant currently, unless the tanks are more than 1 wound, then the Shadow Sword is better. Because it has 2 dice, got a 3+ to hit at -3 OP. And then you also have the Storm Sword, which is basically a Shadow Sword where the volcanic cannon's been replaced with a gigantic cannon. It's a Storm Sword siege cannon is essentially, it's a demolisher cannon that has much longer range, almost 3 times the range, but it's slightly worse, it has slightly less AP. Otherwise it's the same. And it's same points as normal Baneblade. That's potentially, yeah. Yeah, I think it is, but it's exactly the same points. And the Stormblade is slightly more expensive, and the Shadow Sword is quite a bit more, almost 50% more expensive than a standard Baneblade. The only downside is that these sprues don't only have, so you do not have all the side sponsor options as you do in the basic Baneblade kit. You only have heavy bolters, so you don't get the autocannons or the heavy flamers. Yeah, that is everything in the book, and thank you for coming, everyone. I do need to hopefully, so a bunch of stuff I need to paint. I want to do like some painting, some more of the I paint XYZ videos, which I'll hopefully have some done like a week after this comes out. I've been putting off for a while. Fingers crossed I get it done, but yeah, thank you for coming in. I'll see you all next time. Or some more Legends Imperialis, and potentially some other stuff now.